So, Robyn, as now a person who works in a nonprofit who our listeners would be soliciting, what's everyone doing wrong when they reach out to you?
Well, probably the most annoying thing is when random people ask me to do podcasts in the middle of a
I could
conference.
see that. And thoughts and prayers. I couldn't imagine who would want you to take time out of your day to do something like this.
For a friend, I would do anything.
I appreciate that. I think the implication is that we're friends, and that made my day. Please don't correct me if I'm wrong. Welcome, everyone, to the Profit Meets Purpose podcast presented by Constant Method, where we explore how for profit companies can thrive while supporting nonprofits and their missions. Whether you're a new startup or an existing company trying to launch a product or service aimed at the nonprofit market, this podcast exists to help you discover what it takes to create impact and profit by supporting those who serve others. Welcome to the Profit Meets Purpose podcast. Today, live from the Peer-to-Peer Forum in Atlanta, we have Robyn Mendez, who is an AVP with City of Hope, but also has spent a lot of time in the vendor industry with Blackbaud, Tiltify, and others, as well as previous stints in the nonprofit world with Susan G. Komen, MD Anderson, among others. And today, Robyn is going to tell everybody what they're doing wrong in marketing and sales. So, Robyn, as now a person who works in a nonprofit who our listeners would be soliciting, what's everyone doing wrong when they reach out to you?
Well, probably the most annoying thing is when random people ask me to do podcasts in the middle of a conference.
I could see that. And thoughts and prayers. I couldn't imagine who would want you to take time out of your day to do something like this.
For a friend, I would do anything.
I appreciate that. I think the implication is that we're friends, and that made my day. Please don't correct me if I'm wrong.
We are definitely friends.
Okay.
Mark.
So tell me about it. Who's doing it wrong?
Let's talk a little bit about like what's wrong rather than like who is wrong.
Please.
Because I think what I don't appreciate is getting hit up with no context, no relationship when I don't know anything about your company and you just hit me up on LinkedIn or you send me a random email like, hi, I want to meet with you.
Why? We're assuming that's what's missing there.
I think the why is often missing, or, oh, this is worse. My boss really wants to meet with you. If I was important enough for your boss, why wouldn't they have just reached out to me themselves?
Okay, so lesson one, if someone's important, reach out to them yourself. Don't send a underling.
And I understand why salespeople would choose to do that, because I think in the same way that, as my role as a fundraiser and decision maker, I'm making decisions all day. I'm busy. I'm on the road, I'm traveling, I'm managing staff, all of the things. And so, I understand why a salesperson, especially a more senior salesperson, who's probably the one who I'm ultimately going to be negotiating or talking with, you want that individual to be selling. You want them to be talking to people like me. The problem is that the biz dev side of this is so impersonal and the handoff is, not always very elegant. But I'll be honest, you don't get the handoff. I won't call you back. I won't respond.
Because you've been on the other side of the coin working for someone who's reaching out to nonprofits first, and feel free to make some people upset with the answer here. Is there ever a strategy that works with a business development rep and an AE, where the traditional BDR is the one cold prospecting, reaching out, calling all the time, and the account executive doesn't get involved until it's a real sales conversation? Is that ever a winning strategy? Is there ever a time and place for it?
So I think in more transactional sales, absolutely. If it really is you have this problem, our product or our consulting can solve this problem for you. Is that something that you would like to learn more about? I think that's a good strategy. To just get like if you come with immediate value, it doesn't matter
What's an
who.
example of like immediate value in your role?
So I would say, if the person making the outreach truly understands what the problems are that I'm dealing with and addresses those, like, just to give an example, like, are you struggling to hire staff? Yes, I am struggling to hire qualified staff. I would definitely appreciate somebody to help me recruit amazing people to work for my organization. That's amazing. So, I feel like if a BDR comes and understands what my true problems are and it has a solution that could meet those needs and it's logical and I can see the value in it pretty quickly, I would happily talk to the salesperson who might be associated with that organization.
How does the BDR, who traditionally, like, no offense to someone who might be their 12th year as a BDR, but we assume these are younger people just entering the workforce, maybe just out of college, not very familiar with the market. I have to imagine it's difficult for them to have a deep understanding of the problem set. If someone's listening who runs a BDR team or is a BDR, how do you suggest that they learn what those problems are?
I think hearing directly from customers is so important, especially for a person who's a BDR or young in their sales career. Truly understanding your customers and how your solutions meet their needs is core to your business being successful. And so giving them an opportunity to engage and interact and ask questions and just understand at their core nature, oh, this is what these folks are struggling with. I think it just gives them a different perspective when they run into these conversations about how to navigate them. I think we are on the tech side of things. I think we're too quick to throw the BDRs on the phone. I think we're too quick to put them in front of an email. And they don't understand the product necessarily. And they definitely don't necessarily understand the customer. You handed them a call script and they're executing and they want to do a good job. And they don't want to have weird conversations with people on the phone. So I think taking a more natural approach to like, hey guys, yes, your job is to sell, but you're not a car salesman. What you're selling has value and is helpful to the people that are buying. When they start to understand that, then it shifts the dynamic of the conversation. Again, kind of going back to value. If they understand the value, they can have that call.
How frustrating is it to talk to somebody who clearly doesn't, like, they're using terms that they don't understand or asking questions that they clearly don't like have the context for?
I'd say it's really frustrating. It goes back to time. So we were just talking about value. Time is one of the most valuable assets that I could give you. Like when there are 1,000 priorities, if I prioritize, giving you 30 minutes, that's a big deal. Like I could be catching up on work. I could be helping my staff. Like there's just so many things going on. So I feel like when you find yourself in a situation where they don't understand what's going on, or if I ask a relatively basic question and it's super clear that you have no idea what I'm talking about, for me, it's like, okay, next. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't have time for this.
Shutting it down and moving on to whatever's going to be more valuable.
Yeah. It's not my job to teach your salesperson on a call where they're trying to sell me something. Like,
so I've heard two schools of thought then on that. Hey, we put them on the phones too quickly. Where I've heard some sales leaders who say, I actually want them to go out and fail at those conversations and like kind of get kicked in the teeth a little bit so they know what to learn and what to ask. I've heard other people say like opportunities with the AVP of City of Hope are very limited. And if we have one shitty experience at the beginning, are they going to trust anyone, this person or anyone else at this company, to not waste their time? Where do you fall on those two schools of thought?
I do believe experience is super critical, especially for a junior salesperson. So having worked at Blackbaud, I had at some points in time 500 plus salespeople who were selling the products that I was trying to market.
Is there anyone that was really good that might be in the room with? Go ahead.
I was trying to think of something snarky I could say, like, yeah, Neil Harkins was
trying to-
really great. You
Trying to
should
get
have
in front of
seen him in front of a customer.
felt it coming. Wanted to be proactive. Okay. So back to it. Experience, yes. I feel like there's a but.
So it is hard to be a BDR. Like, I really think it is a very, very difficult job. You've got to be okay with rejection. You've got to be able to just like keep moving. You know, it's a volume game. I think the balance is understanding the product. You can't put them on the phone until they understand what they're selling. If they don't understand what they're selling and they don't understand the value of what they're selling offers to the customers, it's going to be even harder. So I think you have to do enough training in advance for them to be able to articulate in a coherent kind of a way, not reading a script, but like truly understand, what am I selling and why is it a good thing? How is it helping the people that I'm selling to? If they have that core base fundamental knowledge, even if they don't have all the answers, the person on the other side of the line understands, okay, this is genuinely like, this is not a cheap car salesman calling me. This is a person who has a product that could help me and is trying to figure out if the problems that they think I have, I truly have. So I think it's a balance. I think managers don't spend enough time having role-playing conversations with their BDRs or with their salespeople. It was always eye-opening to me. You know, we would train salespeople. We'd invest so much time in teaching them about the products and talking at them. And then they were left to like, okay, so they trained me and now I get to go have this rando conversation, but no one's here to listen. No one's here to coach. No one's here to necessarily give feedback. And I think there's a lot of value, whether it's a BDR or even a more senior salesperson. I think there's value in role playing. I think there's value in role playing with a senior salesperson that's heard all the objections, you know, that has seen success, that truly understands the value, and like having the opportunity to coach in that situation, I think is super valuable to getting your BDRs in a good place to have a better qualifying conversation.
Yeah, one of the things that's really interesting is we talk about a Constant Method, talk to business leaders in this space, and we ask them like, hey, if you go up to anybody at your company and say, what are the problems that we're trying to solve, and how does our software or how do our services help to solve those problems? How many people can answer that question without a script or a prompt in front of them? And then how cohesive is the answer to that question? Seems to be something that like a lot of companies are struggling with, and it sounds like that's been your experience as well on both sides of the coin.
Yeah, I think there's a balance to that as well. Like, you don't want to be so scripted that it becomes ingenuous. So I think that's the balance. And you want a person to comprehend the value and then articulate it using their own words. Like, you don't want a robot just repeating something that marketing made them memorize, you know, like you want them to be able to have to sit down and just talk like a human being to another human being, and to understand like, okay, what is the meaning behind the words that marketing is handing to me? And those may not be the words that you naturally use, but you need to be able to like translate them into a way that makes sense for you. Now, sometimes the words are important. Like, there are certain brand phrases that are critical because as a marketer and as a business, you're trying to build a reputation around some of these things. But I find that if you start talking to me in marketing speak, I know immediately. I don't know if that's because I've been a marketer and so I key in on like, okay, this person just flipped into marketing and they're just pitching me, versus this person is actually trying to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And really like talk rather than run through a script or run through what they're supposed to say. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I smirk in the middle of that because I've definitely sat in some Robyn Mendez marketer sessions where you have said, like, use these words and don't use these words. And we're definitely going to be listening to see who is saying these words and not these words. So that it's a delicate balance, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
to your point, you want to drive home the value in your differentiators and make people understand really where you separate. But you'll, to your point, like, you need that person to be able to like engage and have that conversation and not be like dead behind the eyes, waiting to say the next line in your script.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and some of those coaching sessions that we may have had with one another, Mark, about the words to say or not say, some of that's also because I come from the market. Like I've been working at nonprofits. I've also been on the sales side with technology. There are certain words that if you say them, there's a shutdown moment. So as an example, if you're talking to a fundraiser, I'll be transparent. Fundraising is sales. 100%. Good fundraisers are amazing salespeople. They are selling the mission of their organizations. But oh my God, if you call a development person, if you give them a sales title, or if you start talking in sales speak to them, they shut down. They're like, you don't know my business. You don't understand me. And so it's
when you're talking about like constituents as customers, you're saying.
Yeah. Well, yeah, constituents and customers, that's a good example of like two words that are very similar to one another. And in the larger context of the world, especially if you're a salesperson, you're like, it's the same thing. But to the charity, to the nonprofit person who may not have a sales background, it's a big difference. And the relationships and the words that they use in some contexts is really important. And, it's the job of a marketer or a product marketer, especially, to help differentiate what are the words that we use to describe our product and the value it brings. And those things are a little more dynamic, and they should be like part of your own lexicon, using the words that you use on a daily basis. And then there are certain words that are, I am demonstrating by using this word that I understand my customer, and that I understand what they're trying to solve for, and that I'm not just talking at them. So I think you said this earlier, it's a balance when you should use the words that are being kind of put in front of you by your marketing team, who hopefully has the experience to train up on that. And whether those words are more optional.
It's funny that you say that, because I think what started me on this journey specifically is my history in previous companies and working with consultants, business consultants who come in to help companies, tech companies who are selling to nonprofits. And there's this like 2-month period where they keep saying companies and I have to say organizations. And they say like, where's this list of companies, organizations? Like it's me popping that in, or like, where, like, how do you segment by like how much they sell, funders, and you have to like keep getting them up to speed. And it was this incredibly frustrating, like, you may know marketing, you might know business development, you might know sales, but like the fact that you don't know nonprofits puts you at this learning curve, because everything that you're writing, all the sales training that you're creating, to your point, is just filled with these buzzwords that, like, if you say this stuff to someone who works at a nonprofit, they're going to immediately know that you do not know nonprofits.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so many of the sales folks we're recruiting that have the background that makes them qualify for a tech sales job means they've been working with companies and they've been using this language their entire career. They don't come in knowing the nonprofit speak. And so that's why it's so critical. And I go back to, we mentioned this earlier, put your customers in front of your sales team. Help them, especially for brand new salespeople. Let them listen and learn and hear, because if you're thoughtfully listening, if someone's already told you, it's constituent, not company, or it's organization, not institution. And actually, In the higher ed space, it's institution.
Right.
In the hospital space, you can say institution, like those things are totally acceptable. You can't say that to, Komen or like to a
Right.
healthcare nonprofit or to, it's their organizations. They are not institutions. And there's negativity with that word. So I feel like if you have talked to your staff in advance and said, hey guys, let's talk about the buzzwords or the words that are gonna like make you feel friendly, like you understand and are knowledgeable of the business of the individual that you're going to be talking to, then you put them in a situation where they can hear what those folks are saying. I think it helps just reinforce like, okay, it is important. They don't say, I'm trying to think of a good example. Constituents, the word we use,
Like
audience,
consumer, right.
consumer, yeah.
Yeah. So to kind of put a point on it for anybody who is listening, and they do run those BDR teams, they run a marketing department, they run a sales team, on being on both sides of the coin here, what would be your like number one tip to those companies to say, like, before you reach out to me, before you develop your marketing, before you send somebody to a conference to have a sales conversation, what should they do?
I expect you to know my business. If you're going to talk to me about solving my problems, I expect you to understand what those problems are. Just because you have something to sell doesn't mean that I care. Like that sounds harsh, but like, I feel like I've had people this week hit me up. I really want to talk to you about my product. And I was like, I don't give a shit about your product. Like, what's your product going to do for me? So I would say coaching towards no one cares what your product is. They want to know how you're going to solve their problems. They want to know how you're going to add value and make their lives easier.
Is there anyone who stands out in your history of doing this who really nailed the voice of the customer or had a product and team where it was like they really seemed to understand every interaction with this company was outstanding, or like?
Yeah, I'm hesitant to like name a specific group, but I will say the ones who do it right, your word of mouth becomes your sales vehicle. So
word of mouth being like what other customers are saying about. Interesting.
So if someone who I trust says, oh, I am working with company X on my mobile app and they are doing a really great job and I really appreciate the partnership. And those people are really smart and I've learned a lot from them. That to me,
worth more than the case studies and
that you want to get a conversation with me,
have somebody else say something nice.
Have one of my friends tell me that somebody who I trust and respect, tell me that hey, they get it.
So that tip to everyone listening, if you really want to sell Robyn, pay all of the people close to her to say something. Don't do that. Is hopefully hyper.
Yeah, please give my friends money. They would probably appreciate it. And they would probably tell me that you paid them to talk to me. Okay. I've had those conversations before. I'm okay with
that. How do you feel about I don't want to say being paid, but like really obvious, like, hey, come to this demo and we'll give you $100 gift card, or
my time is the most valuable thing I have. You cannot give me enough gift cards.
No amount of gift cards?
I did show up for a certain person's event that was at the baseball stadium during a conference because they had a suite and some really good food. So yeah, you might be able to bribe me with baseball tickets.
Oh, all right. All you have to do is get a suite at a major league stadium and Robyn may show up, although no promises.
But I might not buy your product.
Probably not.
But I'll definitely eat your food, drink your beer.
And eat your food. All right.
And we'll have a good time.
Always.
I feel like I should say more overtly. When Mark Cross invited me to come to a baseball game for a company he was working for, I absolutely showed up because it sounded like a good time.
Let's not give the whole playbook away for free. Speaking of good times, this was a good time. Thank you. I've heard your time is very valuable.
Oh my God.
I feel like I heard that somewhere. So I appreciate you setting aside the time. As always, great to speak.
Oh yeah. When you say it back to me, it sounds kind of, am I allowed to say bitchy?
You're allowed to be bitchy. That's the whole purpose.
Oh,
You
okay.
can't couch the feelings or else it doesn't have value. That's one of the reasons we want to have you, is because you're always yourself and transparent, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you. That's all I can be is myself.
So thank you for joining us. This is your opportunity to plug any City of Hope walks or events or things you want people listening to know about.
Oh, absolutely. If you are not familiar with City of Hope is a cancer and diabetes specialty hospital. We're headquartered in Los Angeles, and we have research facilities and hospital sites in Duarte, California, Orange County, California, Phoenix, Chicago, and Atlanta. So if you are looking for cancer care or a second opinion, I would highly encourage you to come by and give a call to one of our locations. In terms of like the fundraising that I'm doing that I would love for folks to get involved with, we have our Walk for Hope. It's our signature national event. It's in all of the cities I just listed. It takes place in October and November 2005. So we are going to be actively recruiting teams to participate. And if you would like to get time on my calendar, forming a team and fundraising for my event is actually a really good way to get my attention.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, honestly, if you see value in what we're offering and you're not just trying to sell to me, but we're partners, transparently, yeah, it is how you would get my attention.
Well, thank you so much. For anybody listening, if they are curious about how to not sound like a marketing robot, or wondering how well their staff is trained at having normal human-based interactions, they can reach out to myself on LinkedIn or visit constantmethod.com. But thank you, Robyn.
Thanks,
As always,
Mark.
it's been fun.
Always appreciate you.